All right, and we're here with Alli Truttmann, the founder and CEO of Wicked Sheets, a business based here in Louisville, and a good friend of ours, and our inaugural guest here on the OUR502 podcast. So, Alli, thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to join. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. So when Gabe and I kind of thought up the idea of the OUR502 podcast, it's something that we have kind of toyed with back and forth over the years. The OUR502 brand, just Louisville as the audience, Louisville owning the media that we produce, that kind of thing. We came up with a list, Alli, and I don't know that I've shared this with you.
No, I'm intrigued.
But we came up with a list of potential guests, and your name was right at the top of the list from the very beginning. Obviously, you and I have a friendship and a relationship that goes back to college. Mm-hmm. Both graduates of Bellarmine University, and kind of and a circle of friends that have run together for a few years. So being the entrepreneur that you are, I was aware of your story. But the one thing that I don't want to get too far into this conversation without discussing is Gabe has a connection here as well.
Yes. I love this.
The three of us sitting around the table have an interesting connection. So Alli, would you like to touch on that?
Yes, I had this adorable student in my class. I moonlight as an adjunct professor at Bellarmine still. I teach a psychology class, and I had this adorable little nursing student named Kate who is in my class. And you and Jen reached out one day and you said, "Hey, we're looking for a nanny, somebody to help us take care of the kids." I think you had number 2 on the way.
That's right.
And you said, "Do you have any great students?" And I was like, "Well, Bellarmine nursing students are bar none." Yep. And I just have to introduce you to this sweet little girl, Kate. To find out, she's married to Gabe.
Oh, this is ancient history. Yeah.
At the time, it was not Kate Pruitt.
Oh,
yeah.
No, we had not been married yet, and I was working like night shift at UPS at this time. This was a long time ago.
Absolutely. So Kate comes in and she keeps my son Preston for, I don't know, probably one day a week at least for like a year and a half or 2 years, and stayed on and still babysits for us every once in a while in a pinch. Though she has got an amazing job in mother and baby nursing.
Yes,
I don't want
right.
to steal your thunder if you want to talk
go
good about your bride. But after a couple of years, Kate mentions, "Hey," and I'd met Gabe maybe once, twice. You had come along and been at the house.
Yeah, I'd been around. Yeah,
you'd been around and said, "Well, Gabe might like to get into real estate. Would you mind having coffee with him?" And it's like the light bulb goes off.
Sure.
And I'm not going to talk about the first conversation that you and I had.
Yeah.
But I will suffice it to say that I gave Gabe a very interesting test in that very first conversation, and he passed with flying colors.
Oh, good.
I made him do a faux sales call. He knew nothing about real estate.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and I was a little intense, I know.
It was interesting. It was definitely intimidating.
It was intimidating, but he did very well. He did very, very well.
Fast forward now.
Here we are.
Been on a team for almost 4 years. Kate and I have almost been married for 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
Bought a home.
Yep.
2 dogs.
Cutest corgis.
You've had another kid.
I have had another child. Kate has been in school the entire time.
She's in school again now.
Yeah.
She's in grad school.
So is going to end up like at the pinnacle of the nursing world, if not already.
And
Wicked Sheets has been
I've
growing.
just been sweating the whole flipping time. You guys are like making changes, having babies, and I'm like, oh, well, no, I did get married in the last 4 years.
You did get married.
But no, I've just been sweating and grinding away at like this thing.
All right, so that is a perfect segue. So why don't Alli, why don't you? She's not our guest. We might have to have Kate on the show.
You should totally. She could do a mother-baby segment. That'd be interesting.
This would be amazing. Okay, so Wicked Sheets.
Yes.
Talk to our listeners and viewers if they haven't come into contact with your brand. Which, if you're from Louisville, I don't know how you haven't. And I know you're not just in Louisville. You're probably an international business at this point. So talk to us about Wicked Sheets a little bit and give us like the elevator pitch, if you will, on what problem Wicked Sheets solves.
Sure. My first elevator pitch when I started telling everybody what I did was, I make bed sheets for sweaty people. And then I would just stop, and people would look at me and they're like,
"It's a decent elevator pitch, yeah."
Yeah, and then I went through a couple programs, and they taught me to refine it a bit, and all these like Google search terms and Amazon search terms. So Wicked Sheets are moisture wicking and cooling bed sheets for people that have night sweats and hot flashes. I started the business myself 10 years ago because I myself have suffered from night sweats my entire life. So we've done 8 years of research to make the most moisture wicking, 2 to 3 degrees cooler, breathable, quick drying, hypoallergenic sheets on the market.
That's amazing. So, number one, I think solving a problem for people that you know intimately is pretty amazing. Also, it's amazing that I make sheets for sweaty people.
Yeah.
It is like Gabe would say in our industry, that's called moving someone off their mark. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like saying something that is unexpected.
Sure.
Right. That resonates, that gets people to drop their guard. And I guess that may be another question. I might be going off script a little bit here, but talk to us a little bit about the process of selling a product that is a startup, identifying a problem and solving it. And like, how intimidating is that walking into, solving a problem that maybe some people didn't know they exist? Because I know your clients are now a lot more than just sweaty people.
Right.
And I'm sorry if that's not the way to put it.
No. Hey, I talk about sweat all day. Sweaty people, non-sweaty people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if that.
No, you're good. It was
good?
the headphones, yeah.
Okay. So I guess, I was 24 when I came up with the idea. I had just torn my ACL. I made it through 4 years of college soccer at Bellarmine with no injuries whatsoever. And I started playing with the boys, tore my ACL, ended up bedridden in cotton sheets, and was on medication that was making me sweat. So, when I first started the company, I had a lot of naivete. You always love to use that word of like, well, nobody else is doing this. I'm going to be the best bed sheets on the market.
No kidding, yeah.
Right. Like, I was so naive. I was so gung-ho. And I didn't really realize that I was an entrepreneur because I grew up in a really small town in Southern Illinois, and woman-owned business, owning your own business, or entrepreneurship was really not a term that I was familiar with. So when people are saying, oh, you should take this idea and run with it, you should do a startup, I'm like, well, cool. What is that?
Yeah. Tell me more.
Yeah. But because I had this like research base and scientific base going through school to be a child psychologist, I approached it like I was approaching a science project, right? You form a hypothesis. What's your problem? What are the independent and dependent variables? So if I change the fabric, what's going to happen to my sweat production? It's going to wick it away. And then what are results? And then I conclude that, I should leave my career as a child psychologist and start a bed sheets company for sweaty people.
So this is really interesting too, right? Because I feel like when you talk about new entrepreneurs and people that are doing startups and that sort of thing, there's always the question of like, do you have to have this innate entrepreneurial spirit that you're born with that makes all entrepreneurs great, right? And it sounds like what you're saying is it wasn't like you were looking for a business to start and this was a cool idea. It was more the opposite, right? It was something that you needed a solution to, and it was born out of that, and you became an entrepreneur as a result.
Exactly. I do think that there's something to the entrepreneurial spirit because we all say that, there's two things. We live our lives like we're a cat, so we can fail 9 times and still like shake it off like, oh, that didn't happen. You almost like black out and forget that you just, failed or something bad happened.
Right.
And then the other is that there is no such thing as failure. It's just like the shortening of your learning curve, right? Sure. So I do think entrepreneurs have this spirit that kind of just says, I don't think anything is impossible. We're just going to keep going and keep going. So I probably have that, but I have taught a lot of classes. I guest lecture at a lot of MBA programs and things like that. And I do think there are people that are like, I know I'm an entrepreneur. I just haven't found the right thing.
Right. Okay.
And for those people, I usually say, we don't have to come up with an idea. Think about something that's going on in your real life right now. And what could you change, shape, modify, make better, innovate, and then develop a product or a service around that. So I think there are people that are entrepreneurs. Yeah. I just happen to be my first customer and know exactly what I needed to do to try and solve that problem. So I got a little bit lucky.
Well, that narrow focus is really exciting. You knew exactly what the problem you wanted to solve, and maybe you wouldn't have been an entrepreneur at that point in your life because you hadn't had an opportunity to identify those traits about yourself that allow you to keep going when it gets tough, that allow you, the strength to push through the difficult moments that we all experience as self-employed and entrepreneurial people. But it was just a timing thing.
Yeah.
Like eventually my guess is you probably come to it. Right?
I think so.
There are those people that are just so locked in on being an entrepreneur and so persistent. You can take 100 different paths to the same outcome. But there are some people that are just so locked in on being an entrepreneur that they will persist through anything. And then there are others that possess the traits and qualities, my guess, that when you find the thing, that's what draws your focus.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, you were just kind of one of those, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you ask my parents, they said I've always been a rule breaker. And it's not like I intentionally want to like break the rules or get in trouble, even though I found myself in a little bit of trouble when I was younger. But you just see something and you think, I just want to do this a little bit differently, or why do I have to do it status quo, or why do I have to do it just like it's done before? And my parents said I probably, just like you said, would have found my way because I was sitting as a therapist, for numerous years, and I'm like, something just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Right? It just didn't feel right. So I think there would have been a lot of different things along my path that would have led me down into being an entrepreneur.
It's a calling. I mean, when I worked in mortgage, which is industry kind of similar to what I do now, and I clocked out at 5 on Friday, and I didn't think about work until Monday, and that wasn't right for me. The motor just kept wanting to go. Now the opposite is true about me now. I have to reel it in, right? I have to pursue balance. I have to focus on balance. Otherwise, it'll eat me up.
Absolutely.
But it was probably always there for you. You didn't feel quite right. You just didn't know what direction. I mean, you're young. Life experience hasn't taught you what you needed to know to do what you do now.
Right.
So let me ask you this. Wicked Sheets is solving a problem. Okay. And you are clearly passionate about it. So I'm going to come back to the sales aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. When someone doubts you or doubts your product and you are forced into that position to defend the method at which you solve the problem you're out to solve, and your product by extension. Okay, do you take that personally?
I used to, like if we got a return, but at the end of the day, our product is based on science. And so you can't argue with data. Like we designed it to outperform cotton. So we basically took cotton and we took the sheets that we now have and we said, it wicks away 6 times more moisture. And so if someone would call, we usually say like, we totally understand our bedding might not be for everybody, because I think a lot of people, the misnomer think they're going to sleep on Wicked Sheets and their sweat is going to stop, which we're like, no, we're not magic fairies here. We can't make you physiologically stop sweating. It's really good to perspire, actually. Some people just might not be used to the fabric. If you're a 58-year-old woman going through menopause and have been sleeping on a specific type of cotton your entire life, you might just not feel comfortable in our product, even though they're silky smooth, hypoallergenic, all that stuff. But I used to take that personally, and now I'm like, they're just not for everybody. And for every person that returns that, I'm going to find 10 more people to buy them.
Yeah. Well, and that's I think it's important to realize, and I think it's a process that self-employed people, service providers, product innovators, entrepreneurs go through. The cycle where you become your product or you become your service, and it is easy to take things very personally, or resistance. That's really interesting to hear. So, okay, you've spent a lot of time. You spend a lot of time being the point person, the front person of your business.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about customer service a little bit. Obviously, you spoke about customer service concerns, and I know you have a lot of passion for the method at which you resolve consumer conflict and things like that. Talk to us a little bit about your philosophy with respect to customer service.
Our practice is probably a little bit different, and I think most people that look at it and say, this isn't a scalable model, I always have to just tell them, I think I know better than you.
Yeah, it's been 10 years. I mean,
it's been 10 years.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
I'm smarter than you.
Exactly. Of course. We actually have people that have night sweats answer the phone and answer the emails and do our live chats. And namely, that is me and a few of our other team members, because I figure if someone's calling or emailing us in the middle of the night, our largest amount of traffic comes between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., right? They're up, they're sweating, they want a live chat, they need a solution, they have questions. So we have a lot of traffic in the middle of the night, which is why I don't sleep. But what we practice is that I want someone who calls in with this issue to talk to somebody that has the empathy or sympathy for them and can help them address those issues. That's
pretty interesting. Do you ask people this in interviews when they're like starting to work for your company? It's like, do you have night sweats?
Do you sweat
at night? It's kind of important.
No, I've thought about that. It is important, and they usually tell me, they're like, oh, I have this problem, but it's not like a requirement.
A requisite.
Yeah. But it makes sense though. What you're saying is like it's an empathy based customer customer service, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you personally take the calls.
I do. I personally take the calls.
So does
Even
that
now.
like forward to your, do you have like the bat phone, or is it like they forward to your cell phone?
We do
or?
have a call forwarding number, yeah, that
Okay.
goes to the cell phone. Now on the weekends, we'd had to stop answering the calls on the weekends because it can just be a lot. And like you said, sometimes you have to peel back. Like if you don't, I would do anything for a sale, most things for a sale, maybe not anything for a sale, most things for a sale, but you sometimes have to peel back. And on the weekends, I just had to like give myself a little bit of a break.
Oh, there's only so much you can do. Okay, so I've got an interesting story.
Oh, yeah.
I teased this a little bit
tell
earlier
me,
when we were talking. So I think we as a public, okay, expect that entrepreneurs wear many hats, right?
Yeah.
We expect that you're what is the saying? Like you're the cook, the cleaner, and the bottle washer, or whatever. I think I messed that up. But bottom line is when you own a business, you wear lots of hats.
Yeah.
So, not comparing your business to this business, but there is a business that does a lot of infomercial type ads.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of phone order, internet order type businesses. They're in the now bedding business, but before they were in the pillow business.
Oh,
okay. So you know which
Mr.
which company I'm talking about.
He's a friend of mine. I met him at
Is
QVC.
is he really?
Yes,
Okay, fantastic.
yes.
So I'm curious, and it may not be now, but I bought one of those.
Oh, pray tell.
I bought one of those. It was actually Jen bought it for me. We were having issues with pillows. Like I was stiff neck. We tried a bunch of things. The commercials start making a lot of sense, right? And you're like, okay, well, let's give it a shot. But I didn't do it. She pulled the trigger and she bought it. It was like around the holidays. It came in. I was like, oh, this is amazing. My experience wasn't fantastic. Just personally, it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not going to disparage. I know they've sold a lot of pillows.
Right.
Okay. So there must be something there. And maybe I got something that was defective. I don't know. But in the meantime, Jen had found another option that worked very, very well. So I wasn't in the exchange market. I was in the return market.
Yes.
Okay.
I love it.
And so Jen picks up the phone to call for returns, finds the number on the website, and calls about 8 a.m. one morning. And a man answers the phone, and he was kind of grumpy, but the voice was very familiar.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And there wasn't a lot of empathy in the interaction for the return, as Alli would have put it. But I'm quite positive it was him.
Oh, I'm sure.
From Jen.
That's
She
pretty
said,
funny.
and I'm like, wow. And the point of the story is not to besmirch or, everybody has bad days. It is what it is. And I wasn't present to the conversation, but my wife, I mean, she's very factual and very, very direct about things. And she was just like, I was very polite, but he was just really kind of grumpy. And we returned him. We followed the instructions. We got our money back. Everything was fine. Everything was great.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never have expected you to walk in here today and tell me you take customer calls.
Oh yeah. Well, and with that, it really makes me upset because I just don't understand. People aren't always going to like your product.
No.
And you just have to be like, you know what? Thanks for trying. Sorry it didn't work out for you.
Yeah.
Unless someone is outwardly rude to me, I won't respond with like a
Sure.
snippy comment. In
Yeah.
fact, I think I've probably only once or twice said something. And this was
Yeah.
actually when someone was calling to return not our product to us. They mistook us for
Oh,
for a
wow.
competitor. And I was like, I'm trying to tell you we don't have your information in our system because you didn't order that
You're
product
not our
from
customer.
us.
Wow.
So that was the only time I got really snippy. But I think it's really important because you remember those episodes of like Undercover Boss,
Yeah.
where the boss comes in and they like they say, for instance, they go to like a fast food restaurant and they like do the job of the teller and figure out what's going on. You have to understand and talk to your customer. And I think that is the most important part of running business. Because if I'm running something from behind my desk and I have no idea what their actual needs are, how can I create or innovate new products that answer their needs? I might just get like a slew of customers now telling me, I liked this, but if it had, a lavender scent in it, I might like it even more. Well, now I've got a whole new line of wicked lavender pillows. I don't actually, but if I didn't listen and have those interactions that we hold so near and dear to our hearts, I couldn't create new products. I wouldn't understand what was wrong with our existing ones, and we wouldn't have great ratings on our customer service.
And isn't that attitude the best thing about small business is
Love it.
how nimble you can be and how you can literally, you don't need like a study group or what's it called?
Focus group?
A focus group to tell you that somebody might like, you can hear one person who to be in your target demo say, I'd really like a lavender scent. And you think,
Boom.
Bam.
Well, let me highlight
now we have a
something-
new product.
Something you just said that I think is the key here is you said that's one of the great things about small business, right?
Yes.
But we're talking about when small business starts to get bigger. I think that no one's going to disagree with you that it's important to be like really locked in and know what your consumers want. But what happens when that's not your favorite part of the job? Say you didn't really enjoy it, like this gentleman that you're talking about. Maybe that's not his favorite part of the job. I think a lot of small business people, that's one of the first things they delegate out as they start to grow, right? Like that's one of the first things that I'm going to stop doing once we get to the size where I can have someone answer the phones for me. They're not saying it's not important to take the calls, but they don't want to personally take the calls.
Sure.
But what you've seemed to have found out is that by holding on to that responsibility, you're probably sharing it. I'm sure you're not taking all the calls, right?
Right.
Yeah, but by holding on to that, you're gaining some insights that you probably wouldn't get otherwise. If you just had somebody, who was taking the calls, they might not pass on the lavender sheets idea to you for fear that you would reject it. But when you're taking these calls, you're starting to take in all this new information and it's doing things for your business that wouldn't happen otherwise.
Yeah, and I think this is a model that we haven't tried yet, but I think customer service folks, we have to understand a little bit of their perspective. Imagine if you were the person taking these calls for returns all day long, and it was people that were unhappy and you were giving back money. At the end of the day, wouldn't you get home and be like, oh my God, I'm so burned out. So employee turnover increases, employee satisfaction decreases. So I feel like you should be having every person on your team starting to field those calls so that burnout doesn't occur and so that everybody understands we're here for the same mission. All our company is focused on is better sleep. And if we don't all understand that and approach it like a team, we're going to fail.
Well, see, and that's a direct parallel here. Like, who on our team doesn't take client calls? Like, everyone here talks to clients,
everyone does.
including you. So, I mean,
Well, and
Love
so have you studied Zappos much?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so
They've changed a lot.
So Tony Hsieh, and I know the Amazon thing and all that. It's hard to keep track, but Tony Hsieh, when I toured Zappos in 2016,
Okay.
their corporate headquarters, which is really cool, by the way. If you ever go to Vegas and you're a business person, and you find yourself in Vegas, you need to go tour Zappos. Really, really cool experience. Literally every single employee of the entire company at that time had to log so many hours of CSR work per month.
Love it. That's the best.
Including Tony Hsieh, the CEO. And people didn't know it was just Tony from Zappos, that they were talking, like literally
To
the
the
consumer
Tony from Zappos.
talked to the CEO. Like you could have returned a pair of shoes, Gabe, and you could have talked to the CEO and never known it.
it's wild. Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of culture piece, but it was just like they had so much like culture building type stuff. And that, as a matter of fact, right over there is their culture book on the bottom shelf, Zappos culture book that I got during that tour. And it was just really amazing to see the entire company's commitment to customer service. They were very crystal clear, like you just said, about your vision, which is better sleep. And so I don't know, that really struck with me. Okay, so let's pivot just slightly.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, you talked about a couple of things there, but before we go to like new products, because I know you've got some stuff coming down the line. Talk to me. Give me a little chuckle factor here with some interesting customer service stories, or some interesting. Just give me a funny story about what it is to sell sheets to sweaty people.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one I'll share is one of my favorites, and it actually inspired our T-shirts and our slogan for our 10-year brand anniversary this year.
Nice.
I made T-shirts for everybody on the team that says, I can't even not laugh. Wicked Sheets, helping sweaty people spoon since 2008.
Spoon.
I like that.
Yes, I had a conversation.
Sweaty spooning is no good.
Oh gosh, no! I actually have an Instagram post coming up in the next week about sweaty spoons. It's hilarious. Talks about sleeping naked. More people need to sleep naked for sure. But this woman called me, and she goes into this long diatribe about. My husband and I, we have different body temperatures, which is what we hear very commonly. Either the husband's hot and the woman's cold, or the woman's hot and the husband's cold. So I was like, all right, lay it on me. She said, well, since we started sleeping on Wicked Sheets, we're spooning again. You might have saved us from a divorce. And I was like, okay. She goes, no, literally, it's helped us. And she
really?
starts listing. And I was like, I don't want to know about intercourse. I don't want to know about intercourse. I was like, you can keep it to yourself. But
Just hit 5 stars and then you can leave, okay?
Exactly. So the sweaty spoon one, I just thought that was great.
That's
Sweaty
pretty funny.
spoons is great.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna have to think about that.
I'm thinking of episode titles right now, so don't mind me. if I'm
Oh
over here.
wow, Gabe's over here taking notes.
Yes. I mean, if you think about the top sheet, which all these millennials that don't sleep on with a top sheet, it is not hygienic. But these older folks that
that a
do,
thing?
Oh yeah.
We've had extensive millennial conversations on Gabe and I on a previous podcast. So don't be surprised if we go there before the end of the episode here.
It's a trend. We're actually making a bundle called the Millennial Special for folks that don't
top
sleep.
sheets?
It's just a fitted sheet and pillowcases.
I don't know if I'd even heard of that. That's interesting.
Oh yeah.
You haven't heard of this?
Like sleeping without a top sheet? I mean, that's just
Gabe knew about avocado toast in 1996.
Jay likes to do this thing where he likes to say he's a millennial when it's good to be a millennial, and like pretends that he's too old to be a millennial when they do dumb things.
I have coined a term. I am a millennial-old.
A millennial. I like that.
I think I'm a millennial too.
I think we are.
He's like right on
there's
the line,
like there's a 3-year window. It's like if you were born in 81, 82, 83, maybe 84.
I'm 84.
Okay,
so
you're right there on the borderline. We can grant you.
I still have a paper checkbook and I balance it.
Okay. Okay.
That makes me millennial old.
Hashtag millennial.
That's definitely a millennial tendency.
Okay.
But no, yeah. Technically, I think 1984 was the cutoff, and then they've shifted it back.
Yeah.
And it includes 81 now, from what I understand. But
Okay.
anyway, that's neither here nor there. So sleep habits, interesting,
Sleep
of
habits.
millennials.
So here's the best second story ever, and I hope it's okay to get off color a little bit.
You'll be all right.
I will try and use as many PC terms as possible, but we actually have a ton of men who have night sweats and talk about having hot flashes. You know, we went through this period of thinking, okay, it's Army vets, combat guys who've been wearing the combat material or combat gear, and they sweat under that when they're having night terrors. Maybe it's related to PTSD. Well, no, we just have some folks that have high metabolisms, a lot of jocks, and they're calling. They're like, I sweat at night, and I can't. Much like me when I was 24, I'm like, I gotta get a guy to sleep in my bed, and I'm sweating all over my sheets. Some of these guys call, and they're like, I'm trying to find a lady, and I need to have dry bed sheets. So this one gentleman calls me, and he's like, I got these because I'm a single dude, and he said they really work for me. He goes, but I think I need to talk to you about a new product line, and I'm like, uh-oh. I said, I'm all ears.
All right.
Pray tell. And he said, well, I don't know if you're familiar with the term swamp ass. And I was like, I sure am. And he goes, well, think about the front. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, do you remember that old skit from Saturday Night Live with Alec Baldwin and talking about the sweaty balls?
Yeah.
And I was like, I dated a baseball player. I'm very familiar. He said, so I've got that, and I'm not an athlete, and I need you to create something that will help me. He goes, I've tried the underwear. They're like moisture wicking your performance and all that stuff. He's like, and I like them, but they bunch up a little bit. I was thinking you could just create like a sling out of your material for my...
This is an innovator here. This guy. This is when you have the entrepreneur talk with him.
Did you hire him?
Listen.
I was like crying. I had to like put down the phone.
A sling.
You can imagine.
Legit.
I was like, that, and I don't even remember his name. I'm like, that is very interesting. And then he goes into detail. He's like, well, here's what I'm doing now. And I'm like, okay, I'm like taking notes. He does a powder station. He has like all this, a drying station. He uses a hair dryer and all that stuff. And he's like, I wouldn't have to do that if you could just have a little sling and then maybe there could be powder in it. And I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't even say, sometimes I get off the phone and I go, I've just lost like 5 minutes of my life or 10 minutes of my life that I'm never getting back. I'm like, I will talk to this gentleman for the rest of my life. He was so entertaining and enthusiastic about his sweaty balls that I've now like gone on a path of innovating a ball sack.
Yeah, listen. Okay, so small business owners, this is what you're missing if you're not taking your own calls.
No, of course. This is like market research.
It was the greatest.
This is market research. These conversations being market research is a whole other thing.
Yeah, I told you I had a good one.
I don't know. I'm really thinking and like, how does this work? But we probably don't need to go any further.
Well,
than that.
I was thinking like a gun holster. So think about like. I have some diagrams in my office.
Diagrams? Hold on,
I think Gabe is gonna blush.
It's really handy. This is an audio only format right now.
I know, except for those Facebook Livers.
Oh
that's
yeah.
true,
Yeah, absolutely. Aren't you glad you signed in?
Yes.
Okay, so you definitely win the award for the day. You will win the internet for the day with that story.
Okay, good. I like it.
Let's talk about new products.
Okay.
So, because it was interesting that you mentioned like the moisture wicking underwear and things like okay, so I was a baseball player at Bellarmine, and no, Alli and I did not date.
No.
I've been with my wife. She and Alli are friends, and I don't have to worry about the problems of that gentleman because we've been married for quite some time. But I was a baseball player at Bellarmine, and I'm curious, and not to drop other brand names, but Under Armour came into vogue when I was a baseball player at Bellarmine. And anybody who's played college baseball knows the season starts on February 15th. It is cold.
Yes.
So anything you can do to wear warm gear that is flexible, breathable, movable, that was a real thing. And, you know, I'm sure that there is some sort of correlation between like the demand for a product like Wicked Sheets and the advent of this kind of moisture wicking materials and fibers and things. I mean, you're way more obviously educated on that, and you can school us all in that regard. But you continue to see more and more products come to market with something like this. So what are your opinions of those other products? And where is Wicked Sheets headed?
Yeah.
Like in terms of innovation, in terms of product lines?
Well, I think I owe a huge debt of gratitude to the Kevin Planks of the world, the Nike, Adidas Climacool, all that fabric, because really when I first started, it was what I grew up playing soccer in, and I'm thinking, well, if it wicks away the moisture when I'm running and sweating, why couldn't we do this in the bedroom? So
exactly,
yeah, just innovation in the bedroom. And a lot of companies are turning to this. I mean, you see it now in what the term is athleisure everywhere. It's now like the yoga pants that you can wear to work, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody understands
Jay
that.
doesn't let me wear yoga pants to work.
Oh, but you'd look so cute.
You
in
could
them.
wear them to work.
You could. Is that a millennial thing?
I don't want to see that, Gabe. I'm
I
sorry.
think they now make full onesies that you can wear, actually, like onesie, like unitard things that are not just like pajamas. They're like a full onesie of athleisure that you can wear like a suit.
Like in public? Like on purpose?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
I have slacks. I have breathable like moisture wicking slacks.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Lululemon
I
makes
bought it from Lululemon. Like it's the only piece of clothing that I have from there. But like it is we're in Kentucky. It's humid and 95 degrees, and I am out all day. Like I can wear like a a Climacool like Adidas polo when it's really hot. I don't require a suit every day, but the pants were like just a pair of like casual like chinos were really heavy and hot. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're fine. Well, I think, so getting back to Wicked Sheets, I think it was kind of like a product of the times. Yeah, have you heard the term zeitgeist before, the spirit of the times? So if everybody else was able to do it in clothing and things like that, I just assumed, well, why aren't we doing this in the bedroom? And I think a lot of it goes back to the old mentality of, well, we've always been sleeping in cotton, and we've always been wearing wool suits, and we've always been putting linen as like a bed skirt or something like that. And so we started having to figure out how to educate the consumer and think about things functionally, which is what all these great companies like Under Armour and Nike have done in educating and understanding that your body has pores so they can breathe. So why wouldn't you wear fabric that has pores that can breathe as well? I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but it is a bit daunting because you do have to educate someone when they might not be looking to be educated.
Right.
And that's some of the challenges we've faced. And so luckily for us, joking around about sweat and doing funny memes and things like that in a digital age on Instagram and Facebook has been a great way to draw customers because they go, oh God, I can relate to that.
I'm not alone too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then they come to our page and then they are ready to be educated because they've been like, oh, I can relate. This person or company seems empathetic towards me, and now what else can I get from them? And so we started with Wicked Sheets, the baseline. I think this gets to your next question about the innovations and what's next. And a lot of the folks we started targeting first were menopausal women. So I went from this 24-year-old person who had hyperhidrosis to menopausal women. And as we started talking to those customers, they're like, well, my daughter, Amanda, who's pregnant, is having night sweats or hot flashes because she just had a baby and she's got this like hormonal flush going on. So then we start catering to Amanda. Next thing you know, she's like, God, my baby drools. It would be great if you could make a crib sheet to wick away the moisture when the baby's drooling or keep the baby's bottom dry when they have a leak out of their diaper. Yeah. And so Wicked Little Sleepers was born. So we now have a full baby line, Wicked Little Sleepers. We have cribs, mini cribs, pack and play replacements, pregnancy pillowcases. We've got like 5 or 6 new products in the pipeline right now. And Wicked Little Sleepers is doing great. It's just an amazing kind of innovation that we continued just by listening to our customers and being a product of those innovation times.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've often said, when you have young children, and so Jen and I, and if you've heard anything I've done before, Gabe and I in our previous podcast, you'll know I'm a type A firstborn. Alli knows this. So is Jen. She just happens to be introverted while I'm extremely extroverted.
Right.
And so we are like the same person except in the amount of words that we speak.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
That's a great description of you too, by the way.
That's funny.
but literally, if you could give us a product that would make our children sleep more, like I'll give you all of my money.
Chloroform.
And
I think
so-
Yeah. Just breathe in, darling.
So like if you can keep my child dry and they don't wake up because they're wet, which both my kids have been amazing sleepers. I've been kind of complaining a little bit lately about my daughter because she's teething. She's cutting back teeth. So she like kind of lost her mind for a little while, but we're working on, knock on wood. Where is the wood? I'll knock it.
I'm sure this is plywood. You can
Yeah,
work on that.
something. Knock on wood. She's four consecutive nights in a row that I've literally, and she's been the best sleeper like the whole time she's been alive until like a couple weeks ago. And we literally had to start waking up multiple times a night because she's cutting back teeth. But
Yeah.
with my son, it was a little bit like he'd get wet and he's up.
I know
And
it.
so I can only imagine that the moisture wicking material, and I would have never thought.
Well, honestly, another friend of ours from Bellarmine, she calls me. Both of her kids, Casey Durbin,
Yeah.
or Noltmeyer, both of her kids have grown up sleeping on wicked sheets, and she's been some of my best testimonials because
Love that.
she'll tell me things. I don't have children yet, but she'll tell me things that I would have never thought of. And her little guy, Lucas, my godson, he basically was cutting teeth, and he got up in the middle of the night, like in a little bit of a fog, and he bopped his chin on the crib and it bled. And Casey goes, well, good thing he was on wicked sheets. The wicked sheets crib sheet wicked away the blood, and because they don't stain, the blood washed out. She goes, I couldn't even find it the next morning. You know, you go in there because you don't want to turn the light on, and you're like fumbling around trying to make sure your baby's okay. And she's like, I know there was blood and drool all over the sheet. She goes, I woke up the next morning, it was gone. And I'm like,
there you go.
Okay, well, we wick away baby,
Blood is
teething blood.
Maybe that won't be in the advertising materials, but
Oh,
Oh no,
goodness.
I'm sure I can work that in a really
The next
funny way.
t-shirt, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Wicked Little Sleepers. Anything else you wanna share with the audience today?
Yeah, so with that, I do want to do a little plug for the Louisville Entrepreneurial Society. I know
Awesome.
Louisville as a whole is working right now with a lot of different programs with LEAP, 1804, Story Louisville, Enterprise Corps, all those folks. And they want to just get better awareness, like national awareness for entrepreneurs, because Louisville gets touted sometimes as not being a large thinker when actually I give us a lot of credit. We've done some pretty cool stuff. We might just not have a big enough megaphone, right?
Right.
So I want to take that minute to be a megaphone. Shark Tank, the actual Shark Tank television show, is doing open calls on April 29th.
Nice.
I can't recall exactly where it is. It's somewhere at U of L on their campus. But
Yeah.
everybody should go. You can go get a wristband and pitch your idea and make some of these big names like Mark Cuban and Marcus Lemonis and these guys,
Yeah.
Laura Grenier, figure out why Louisville is great and that we are a totally amazing pool of innovators.
Sure.
So everybody should go to that. And then the Louisville Venture Sharks is doing its own small Shark Tank competition, which actually I won in 2013.
Oh, cool.
That's what sent me to the menopause convention.
Well, I know
Yeah,
you've
oh,
won
okay.
lots of awards, and we kind of looked into it. There was so many that we didn't really feel
Oh.
like it was fair to try and list
No,
them all.
no,
but,
no need to do that.
We'll definitely get on the show notes the links to the website and all the stuff, all
that'd
of
be
your
great.
accomplishments and all that's amazing. We'll definitely get the Leap and the Shark Tank
yeah,
links
we'll
and all
get
that
those,
stuff.
those links will be part of the description too after you listen to this episode.
We'll put all that up there. But okay, so and feel free to chime in anytime. But I'm curious because this show is all about Louisville, Louisville people, Louisville businesses, Louisville products. Louisville is at the core of what we're trying to do here. So why don't, and it's maybe a broad question.
Okay.
But why don't you tell me a couple of things? Because you're not from here originally. You're like
Right.
me. I'm a transplant. I'm only from an hour away, but not a Louisvillian originally, to start out. Tell me some of the things that because you've chosen to make this your home. You could have went home.
Right.
You could run this business from anywhere. Tell me what's great about Louisville and what's great about starting your business here.
I think two terms resonate. So network and community. I did not think if I left here, I would be able to replicate the sense of community that I got being here those 4 years that I was in college. And a lot of that is owed to Bellarmine because I think that they build a really strong community. But I think just as a whole, anybody, if you meet somebody at a bar or somebody out in a coffee shop, they say, what high school did you go to? Or what neighborhood do you live in? And everybody knows someone that as either in that high school, went to
Sure.
that college, or lives in that neighborhood, and then you end up having a 20-minute conversation with them.
Sure.
And I just don't think you can replicate that in many places. I think it's kind of one of our biggest, hidden gems.
It's a very hospitable city. I mean,
Yeah.
like I don't think we get credit for the Southern hospitality, because we're
A little too north.
we're
for
not
the-
we're a little too far north for that. We're the Midwestern hospitality.
Sure.
Like, I don't know. Anyway, I find that Louisville's a good mix of all of those things.
Yeah,
So
I think
talk,
so too.
talk to me about more specifics about just the city. Okay, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be business related. What do you love about Louisville? Like living here, being a part of the community. What's some personal stuff?
Okay, so number one, I love the park systems. A lot of people don't know that they're like, oh, well, yeah, you have a great Cherokee Park. Well, most of them were designed by the people that designed Central Park,
Yeah.
which is one of the most famous parks in the world. So Louisville parks are absolutely incredible, and they just
Homestead.
keep getting better. And it's amazing, the greenery. When you're going for a run through Cherokee or Seneca, it's clean, the trees are well kept, the paths are well kept, and people respect it. And you always see happy, friendly, dog-loving, animal-loving people in those parks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm amazed at how many there are that I didn't know about.
I know.
Like, I mean, I was at Turkey Run Park. Like, ridiculous.
Yes.
It's so amazing. Like, I live in this part of town, which is near Middletown. And, obviously Beckley Creek and all these parks right out here, the parklands at Floyd's Fork,
Yeah.
ridiculous new, like millions of dollars worth of, of investment into those park system. And it's just amazing that we have this here for nothing.
Yeah.
And that, we may get grief for not being able to paint a bridge or not being able to build a tunnel
or finish Dixie Highway.
finish Dixie Highway.
Had to get my jab in there.
That's the state. That's not the city.
Okay.
But anyway, neither here nor there.
Fair
we
enough.
may get flack for that, okay, or not legalizing gambling or whatever. We
That
send
might
all our money.
change soon.
I'm about to say, that might be on the way.
It
Yeah.
very well might be. But, truthfully, we do get some stuff done.
Oh, I think so too. I think they have chosen to invest wisely in the beautification projects. And I think, honestly, because we are a small city, just like you say, small businesses, there's not a ton of cash to go around. So you have to choose what is vital at the time. I think they've done a great job investing in parks. I think they've done a great job in investing in the tourism scene. But specifically, I know everyone talks about bourbon. I love bourbon. I love all the bourbon themed things around Louisville. But our culinary scene
It's amazing.
is like top of the list for me.
Bourbon helps that a little bit, I think,
Sure.
because we have a lot of regional and not so much international, but we've got a lot of clients from all over the country, and they come here specifically like investors. We've seen a lot of coastal money come in to invest in real estate in Louisville, and they are blown away.
Oh, yeah.
At how good. They're like, wait a minute, like you have restaurants here like this? Like I'm from New York and I'm impressed. Like that kind of stuff. And it's really refreshing, and it's exciting to be a part of that scene, or at least be able to call it your own.
Oh yeah, my family was actually just in town this past weekend, and they brought two friends of theirs from Southern Illinois, and I took them to 610 Magnolia.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, and they travel all over. They go all over the world. They're foodies. They love bourbon. They do this, and they said when they left, they're like, hands down, this was the best meal we've had ever.
Wow.
And they're like, and I can't believe I got it in Louisville, Kentucky, in old Louisville. They're like, there's this hidden gem in old Louisville, sitting on 6th and Magnolia, surrounded by not so many street friendly places, right?
Sure.
Walk friendly. I don't know how to say that. Pedestrian friendly spots. And it's just an incredible meal.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I know you're a fan of historic real estate.
Yes, I
historic
sure am.
buildings.
I
So,
love 'em.
You want to elaborate?
Yeah. So, I loved when we were looking for houses when we were renting at Bellarmine. We loved living in old Louisville or old historic homes. There's just something about the charm and character, the archways, the what is it called? The crown molding in each of them. Everything's unique. I just love that not one is the same. But there's also a tour that I was unaware of in old Louisville called the Old Kentucky Home Tour, where you can go and tour 8 old mansions, I think.
Well, not a lot of people know this, but Louisville has the single largest collection of pre-war colonial structures in the United States.
Get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did not know that.
And there are books written about it. I mean, there are people that travel to Louisville. It's like a tourism destination for pre-war colonial architecture. People come in. I mean, I sold 2 buildings on 4th Street, 1435 and 1431 South 4th Street. And these are like historic registry homes, like right next to one another. They're like 7,000 square feet apiece. You cannot recreate some of the architectural kind of feeling that exists in these properties. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Well, and a lot of famous people have actually been there. My dad said that he toured this one, and Thomas Edison spent the night there. And one of them suspected that Albert Einstein, they said they don't have it on the log, but they thought Albert Einstein stayed in that home as well.
Yeah. This was Albert Einstein's Airbnb.
Yes, the Einstein B&B.
Einstein B&B. Okay, so that's about all the time we have for today, Alli. But real quick before we go, tell us about something that is really, really unique to your business and an experience that you've had. I know you had the pleasure to be able to sell Wicked Sheets on QVC. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think some of us may have seen, and I'm going to mispronounce her name, Lori Grenier on Shark Tank, and heard her talk about QVC, or however you come to it, just flipping channels and come across QVC. But I know that was an exciting thing for your business. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was definitely something we wanted to do. We knew that that was a really good place to get in front of. At QVC, it's 96 million homes. And so I originally had done a pitch competition with Randy Zuckerberg and her team, and they were working with the Home Shopping Network at the time. My timing was a little bit off because as I got my air date with them, QVC actually purchased HSN. And so my deal, for a bunch of different reasons with Home Shopping Network, didn't go off. But anyway, that shuffled me into the hands of QVC, which was a great experience. It was challenging. I developed 3 ulcers and a hiatal hernia during the whole process. I kid you not.
That's not a joke.
That's not a joke. But they taught me a lot about scalable business and how to mass manufacture and how to make your customer or your product basically appeal to everyone, because you go on and
you got to have it together.
You've got to have it together. You have your sales pitch down to the minute. And I was on for 6 minutes and 7 minutes. The first 2 times I did really well. And we did about $6,700 a minute of sales.
Wow.
And I love it. People are like, the metric that you just said is you did dollars per minute. They go, people don't talk
who
like
measures
that anymore.
Thousands of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was a really cool,
that is neat.
Yeah.
So I want to get to houses per day.
Yeah.
That's what I want to get. How many houses do you sell per day?
Yeah. Well, we do sheets per day. We have like a tally counter in the office. Yeah.
I love it.
But it taught me a whole lot about what we want to be, and it told me a whole lot about what we don't want to be. So I ended the show. We actually parted ways with QVC a couple of weeks ago, and it was more so because we know our brand and we want to be like the Third Love bra of sheets. We want to be like the Tommy John boxers of sheets. That direct to consumer approach was better, or is better for us and our brand, than we want to be the sheet for everybody. Because
sure.
Again, it goes back to I had night sweats and hot flashes, and I created the sheet for them. If I just want to go and compete with Egyptian cotton, then I might not as well have a brand, right? Bye-bye Alli, just be another sheet.
Well, that's a good point.
And that's the thing that I think is so amazing about what you've been able to accomplish with this, and knowing where you're headed. Sheets, I have no recognizable brand of sheets in my mind that I can come to right now. I mean, it's bed sheets. It's in the bedroom. It's traditionally private. It's something between you and your partner, et cetera, and so forth. But you have been able to build a brand, bringing that out into the open by being a premium and specialized product. And so that's
why give that up? Yeah.
Yeah. Why I can't imagine you would want to give that up. It's nice that they feel amazing.
Right.
But they solve the problem first, right?
Exactly.
And so, if the pregnant mother you mentioned, or just postpartum, if her sweats go away, well, she's still got these amazing feeling sheets, and if it comes back, and she still has them, but she bought them for a purpose, and I think that's really cool.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I think that's about all the time we got, Gabe.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us and for being a part of this too. I mean, this was really cool for us because it's our first episode, and we're really glad to have had you be able to do it. So it's awesome.
It was my pleasure. I'm so excited. You guys are doing a great job of showcasing the things that are wonderful about Louisville, but the people that you've met along the way, and that's a testament to you guys, because you know really cool, fascinating people. I'm not trying to say,
oh, you're fascinating,
I'm included in this, but I know that list you were referencing earlier is going to be just total rock star list.
Well, that's all the time we've got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hour 502 podcast, our very first episode. But remember to hit subscribe. We're going to be coming with new episodes very soon with more of the voices you want to hear from right here in Louisville.